Daryl. Right. My other brother, Thanks for
You ready? Good morning and welcome to the Berry County Board of Commissioners Committee of the Whole for July 16th, 2024. If you would please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Reports from state and county officials. Are there any state or county officials here who would like to update or address the board? Hearing none, a limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Fred Jacobs from Hastings Township. I'm here this morning to question some concerns you voiced for a major housing project in Middleville on the former Mid-Villa property that has sat there for years with several proposals but a lack of support from government officials. Yet recently the village and the township finally gave their support for the project after the developer made adjustments requested by the village. Yet when it finally arrived before this board, there were concerns about the size and the impact it could make on the community and the tax policy that makes it possible to build. These are valid concerns, but the apartments join the existing housing and the commercial portion aligns with commercial sites. There have been some opposition, but there's always opposition. This board also felt concerns from the neighbors that just a block away, just across the street, when the Titan lofts were proposed, yet look at what it turned out. Anyone coming to Hastings has to be impressed to see this beautiful project that adds to the neighborhood and the impact it will have on the housing shortage, something I think we can all agree has a top of mind for anyone in leadership. As local government leaders, part of your responsibility is to face and solve challenges in dealing with growth. Economic development should be considered a team sport that requires multiple stakeholders that execute successful projects for long-term growth. There's no question communities either grow or go backwards. There's no reason why we can't protect the quality of life and maintain the small town feel, but turning this project down will not only impact local industry that has been calling and screaming for additional housing, but will taint the property for development for years to come. And when it comes to tax increment financing, it works for communities and developers in making projects of this magnitude for small towns possible by promoting partnerships between government and private sector companies that might not be possible without consideration. You know, you didn't just dream up this project to make it happen. Tax increment financing works across the state, and it's possible. A lot of these developments are only possible because of it. You're creating immediate tax increases with some of the project while creating an opportunity zone for sorts with a housing portion that works to keep rents in line with labor rates and yet promotes local growth and solves a housing problem that continues throughout the county. As a board, you've shown an effort to work together to solve problems for the people of this county. You've seen the reports, you've heard the local leaders and the industry representatives about the need for additional housing throughout the county. Will there be opposition? There always is. Anytime you have growth. But yet, look across the street and look what we've done with the cooperation with you guys and the local leaders. In Nashville, local officials were concerned and almost turned down a project to renovate an old school building. But very soon, 20 apartments will be ready to move into that former school building, and it's mostly likely would have been torn down. It had been raised because nobody wanted to fix it up. Working to find somebody that wants to put $20 million in Nashville, Michigan. That was an amazing project. As a former newspaper publisher, I've witnessed where governments are facing increasing challenges in supporting resilient communities. These projects take time. They take thousands of dollars and lots of planning, only to get to the end and face opposition over a financial hurdle that was put together by government to make developments like this possible. I hope when the issue becomes before this board again, that you'll look at it and say, hey, this is good for Berry County. This solves a problem that we all face. It's good for schools, it's good for local industry, it's good for restaurants, it's good for everybody. You know, And I think that your support is necessary to make this possible. This is the final straw, I mean, the final place of rest for these guys in this development. You know, when these development projects start, that's when government officials need to get involved. They need to set the ground rules and make sure that these projects and the developers understand the rules and what you'll accept. But to come all this way, to spend all that money to have this project and then to be turned down would be an outrage. I want to thank you for the consideration to listening to me today. You know, and if anybody has any questions, want to talk about it in any depth, give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Additional public comment?
Gary White, Nashville. When that Nashville project came in, I do want to say it was interesting how long those 6 zeros across that board were on there for your last guest speaker, public comment speaker, as many people are always cut off. But yeah, when Caston Township looked at that project, they made the negotiation, and the developers and the investors actually went and made an agreement. So it was a negotiation. It wasn't, oh, this is just the way it's going to be. So that's important. At your last meeting, I guess I look at Robert's Rules of Order is what you folks have adopted as your meeting, how you're going to run your meetings. There are trainings out there for Robert's Rules of Orders. There are trainings out there for Open Meetings Act. When you folks don't take the opportunity to go out and get trained, and then you're not happy with the results of how your meetings are run or how you're doing things, it may be your own fault for not educating yourself on these rules or trainings. I know as a village president, I went to, before I was even took office, I went to a newly elected village officials training because it's important to be trained even as an elected official. Then I just sit here and Robert's Rules of Order, it's a structured meeting agenda. If you don't know how to apply that, then should you be using it? I've actually complimented townships on how they run their meetings because they're cordial. They will allow things to take place and not be structured against some people and then allow other people to just go on. If it happens with one person, it should happen with all people. If you want to be structured, you'll find out you don't get the information that you want. I'm a big person on education. I've been an instructor of many things. To be an instructor, you got to go get trained on it. To instruct instructors, you even have more training. As a driving instructor, we were required to take trainings, and some of the trainings were just not worth your time. But if you've been an elected official and you haven't been to the Open Meetings Act training, if you run underneath the Robert's Rules of Order and you've never been to a training on Robert's Rules of Order, tabling a motion is part of that. So there's some things the chair just needs to know, and there's some things as commissioners that you need to know, and it comes from being trained on it, not hoping that it never shows up. Thank you. Now it's all 6 zeros.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Hearing none, we'll move ahead with our agenda. Approval of the June 18th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Commissioners, you've had a chance to review that. The chair will entertain a motion for approval of the June 18th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
Move approval of the June 18th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
Is there support?
Support.
Support by Tunison. Motion by Hatfield, support by Tunison for approval of the June 18th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Michael Brown. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. My first item this morning is A request to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval for the Chair of the Board of Commissioners to sign the acknowledgement of service of process and consent to entry of a judgment in regard to Safe Environmental Properties LLC and Robin, I think I'm pronouncing this, Perucci versus Berry County et al., which with case number 24390CH. Sounds very complicated, sophisticated, important. It certainly is important to Safe Environmental Properties and Robin Perucci. I believe that it's a simple and sort of perfunctory item from our perspective, in that these folks are looking to vacate what was a road right-of-way. And you'll notice that in the, I believe in the documentation that was provided, it lists the road commission, the drain commissioner, the Board of Public Works, or not the Board of Public Works, the Sewer and Water Authority, and a host of others. I have reached out to the road commission and the drain commissioner specifically. We normally do not have an interest in this, although in talking to, I did reach out to the attorney, Hilger Hammond, to inquire, and they said that it's commonplace that they will send this out to everyone, if you may, and anybody that they think might have an interest. My worry is that when we sign something like this, it's, for lack of a better term, misconstrued that we're also speaking on behalf of either the drain commissioner or the road commissioner, albeit they're separate agencies and authority. But nonetheless, it creates that appearance. So anyways, long story short, I reached out to the road commission as well as the drain commissioner to see if they have an interest in this. That would have potentially changed my recommendation to you. They do not have an interest in this, and it's my understanding that both entities have signed this acknowledgement that they don't have an interest and returned it. So as such, my recommendation would be that we also sign the acknowledgement. If we don't, I believe that then we would, when it comes to court, the court would be looking for us, which would require an attorney and some additional expense. So again, my recommendation is that you approve authorizing the chair to sign this acknowledgement of service of process and consent to the entry of judgment in regard to this request.
Questions from commissioners? Mark?
It looks like this is located in Prairieville Township, is that correct?
I believe that it is, yeah.
And Prairieville has its own planning and zoning, and I see that they're kind of buried in the list of defendants in this. Do you know what their position is on this? It seems like they would have the primary position.
Yeah, I don't. I certainly can reach out to all the others, but I didn't because, don't take this wrong, our position doesn't necessarily impact or affect theirs. They still would have the right, and as I understand it, to say, hey, for example, the sewer authority might say, we still have an interest in and a need for that easement. Mm-hmm. Although as I look, the property has been, the easement's been built over and whatnot, but over the years, but they still might, in which case they would then effectively not sign this. They would go to court and defend that position and easement, not the necessity.
Okay.
So, yeah, again, I didn't.
I can't imagine that the sewer authority would vacate their easement on it if they've got pipe in the ground there. But
Yeah, that's the whole point if they have a pipe, but my guess is that in looking at, as you pull up the map, I sat with the drain commissioner and he pulled up the aerial of it. And again, I believe that properties, that road easement has been actually built over at dead ends, as you, and I apologize, it is a small map, but it actually dead ends into a lake. So it's...
Was this one of these lots that was platted in the plat to service the members of the plat? Is that why there's so many?
I think so.
Okay.
I believe that's my understanding of it, yeah.
Commissioner Getty?
In looking on Fetch, I mean, the old road 101, is that what it's called? Drive 101, goes through a number of other parcels as well. Do we anticipate seeing, this just vacates the section on that one lot, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
There's still
So-
quite a bit of an issue, and this is all over Berry County. There's old platted roads through lots, but, so it just comes up one parcel at a time?
That's correct. So this may effectively prompt others to say, oh, we want to do the same thing. So we could get these.
I believe the village of Middleville has acted, and maybe to Commissioner Doster's point, the local municipality could vacate that road. I'm not sure what the legal mechanism, but in the village, they vacated entire platted roads that were never developed.
Okay.
Additional questions? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval for the chair of the Board of Commissioners to sign the acknowledgement of services of process and consent to entry of judgment in regard to Safe Environmental Properties, LLC, and Robin Perucci versus Berry County, case number 24-390-38. So moved, Campbell.
Support, Getty.
Motion by Campbell, support by Getty, to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval for the chair of the Board of Commissioners to sign the acknowledgement of service, process, and consent and to entry of judgment in regard to Safe Environmental Properties, LLC, and Robin Perucci versus Berry County, case number 24-390-CH. Additional discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So noted. Thank you. Next up, a reclassification request.
Yes, this is a request to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached first deputy treasurer job description and reclassification. Looking to see, oh, Sue, come on up if you, I know this is, you'd rather not, this is not your excitement, at least in front of the camera, so to say, but Sue Vandekar, the county treasurer, this would be a position that reports directly to her. It's her first deputy treasurer. So this is a request to approve the attached updated first deputy treasurer job description and reclassification to grade level 8 on the BCCEA pay scale. So we've had a few of these. I won't get into too much detail on the background, but like those in the past, this was a request that came from the employee and department head and went to the classification committee. The classification committee reviewed it and is recommending this change. And typically it would go through personnel, as you're aware, because of a light agenda schedule this month. We canceled personnel, so we're bringing it to the committee of the whole instead, for your consideration and approval.
Questions from commissioners? So this has been vetted, did this say twice that it's been discussed with the classification committee
This
in detail?
has. This one came to us, and there were additional questions in detail that was asked of the material that was submitted. Sue appropriately and adequately completed the request for additional information. The classification committee met a second time to review it and came to this determination. So to the classification committee's credit isn't the right maybe term, but just that the rigor that they go through, these aren't necessarily easy, right? It's nobody wants to say no, if you may, But, and while this, in this case is a yes, we do push back, they do push back, they ask really detailed questions. I don't know that it ended up exactly where, or as high as the employee or department director, Sue, initially requested. In fact, I know it didn't, but that is the job of the classification committee to take a look at it compared to our framework, the methodology that we use for classifying all employees, so that hopefully, our goal is to make sure that the employee is compensated on our pay schedule appropriately according to the requirements of and demands of their job, but also equally, and I don't know if that's the right word, across the organization, so that, again, people that have, or positions that have significantly different duties, but in the end, what they do, the underlying requirements of their job, are progressive or responsible as they're up the ladder, are equally compensated. So, so anyways,
Okay.
I'll stop there for a minute.
Any additional questions? David?
The Personnel Committee has spent a fair amount of time talking about this in the last several meetings, because it does seem that we've had an inordinate number of reclassification requests over the last 6 months. And I would say that that's probably not unexpected, given that it's been some number of years since we last updated the compensation and classification study. And it's, we've talked about the fact that it's time to do that again. I would like to see us put that on the agenda for next year, and hopefully once we renew that, that will reset the organization and hopefully decrease the number of these that we may be looking at in the next few years.
Okay. There are no additional questions. The chair will entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached first deputy treasurer job description and reclassification to grade level 8 on the BCCEA pay scale.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Getty, support by Hatfield, to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached first deputy treasurer job description and reclassification to grade level 8 on the BCCEA pay scale. Additional discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Lastly, appointment of the officer delegate and alternate for the MERS annual meeting.
Sure, so this is a request to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to appoint to be determined an officer delegate and an officer alternate to attend the 2024 Municipal Employees Retirement System annual meeting, and then to approve paying the expenses for the officer delegate and the employee delegate to attend the annual meeting on October 10th and 11th at the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So the employees, I say the association, it's really more than the employees association. The employees in the organization who meet the definition of an employee delegate, meaning you're not management or a department head level position, are requested annually through a ballot process to vote for an employee delegate and an employee alternate. And I hate to admit, Luella, I don't know who was chosen.
Agenda request there.
I got to look in there, sorry. Amber McQueen was chosen as the employee delegate, and Jennifer Mitchell was chosen as the employee delegate alternate. We're asking for the board to determine who they want to appoint as the officer delegate and officer alternate. Traditionally or historically, it has been me that attends as the officer delegate, and I think more recently a commissioner as the alternate, the officer alternate. I won't be here October 10th and 11th, and we don't know who the next administrator is. So it'd be my suggestion that the board appoint a commissioner or commissioners as the delegate and alternate. We have the ability to send additional folks, so the fact that you have appointed a delegate doesn't mean that additional people can't attend. In fact, Barb Rhodes from our office will be attending just as a participant to attend the meeting, partake in all of the education and informational sessions that occur, if you may, the learning associated with it. The reason for the formality of appointing the officer delegate and the employee delegate is at the annual meeting, those folks vote for board members to serve on the MERS board. I will actually, my position, I had to resign my position on the MERS board effective at the end of August. So my position will be vacant and somebody will be elected to replace me. Effective, there are 9 board members and there are 2 every year that are up for election. So long way around the barn, I apologize for that, but ultimately looking at first deciding who you would like as the officer or delegate and alternate, and then to approve a motion to notify MERS of that, as well as approve the expenses for the officer and employee delegate to attend the meeting.
Okay. Does Luella have any interest in being the officer delegate and attending one of these?
So she does, except that with Barb attending and assuming that my successor wants to attend as well, to have all 3 of them out of the office is, it would leave no one in the office for those 2 days. So I think that more likely it would be that you appoint somebody else, and then as my successor is onboarded, he or she decides whether they're going to attend or want Luella to attend, or we'll work through that, but provide that flexibility as opposed to appointing her as the delegate. So
Okay.
I did ask her that.
If you haven't had a chance to attend this, I attended the one in Detroit a few years ago. It is very well done. It is very informational. A lot of good information, a lot of good food, usually some entertainment. So if you are interested or have not been able to attend one of these, I would recommend you do one at least one time. So
I went last year.
you went last year? Volunteers?
I can't.
I will also be out of state at that point, so, but,
Let's appoint somebody
it's
that's not here.
it's a Thursday or Friday. There you go.
That is what we generally do.
It's happened to me, so.
Yeah, myself as well.
You also have the ability, any department head or elected official level position could serve in that capacity.
Okay.
If no one on the board is either interested or can commit, what I could do, if you want to forward this on to the board without the names, I could reach out to department heads or elected officials and see if there's somebody or 2 folks that are interested and able to go, and then we'll just put that on items for consideration as opposed to consent, and include that.
And we could hear from the commissioners that aren't here too.
Okay. Or we could just appoint them.
Or we
So, I like that idea better. Let's put it under items for consideration next week, unless one of you wants to volunteer for one of those positions.
Possibly, but let's put it on the agenda for
Okay.
I was thinking about it, but let's put it on the agenda.
All right.
That'll be fine.
I get that it's Fair Week, it's election season. I mean, right now is not feeling like a time that you got a ton of room in your schedule, right? Ask you mid-August, it might be a different story, but
Exactly.
unfortunately, to take advantage of there is a little bit of pressure in that, to take advantage of the early registration pricing, which isn't, again, the end of the world. Has an August 9th deadline. So we do have a little bit of time, but.
Why can't we go ahead and make a registration with the
We-
individual to be determined?
We could potentially,
I mean, we're gonna have somebody there.
yeah, we could potentially do something to that
So you might
effect
as well
too.
take advantage of the pricing and
Yeah,
Draw straws? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
all right.
do that on each down the hallway.
Okay. I move we go into closed session in accordance with Public Act 267 of 1976, 15.268, closed session permissible purposes, Section 8F, to review and consider the contents of an application for employment or to appoint to a public office if the candidate requests that the application remain confidential. However, except as otherwise provided in the subdivision, all interviews by public body for employment or appointment to a public office must be held in an open meeting pursuant to this act. Is there support?
Support, Doster.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? Do we need a roll call on that, Michael?
We do.
Okay.
Doster,
Aye.
Getty,
Aye.
Hatfield,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Tunison,
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. We will be going to closed session, and I believe we're going down into the jury room.
That is correct.
Okay, we anticipate this to be
Couple of
potentially a
hours.
couple of hours, so we will not be back immediately, just so people in our audience know that. Thank you.